I have to get up again.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to not Shakti Flow, Yin Yoga. Wouldn't that be funny? You think you're in yoga, but you're really not. All right, so take a deep breath, close your eyes. If you wear glasses, take them off for a minute. Let your hands rest on your lap, let your elbows kind of hang from your shoulders. And as you take that deep breath, let it be a signal to your body to settle. Once your body starts to feel that sense of quiet, the breath may deepen, the mind may get a little bit more like a whisper, and we become a little more present to the space and to the stillness. Let the belly relax so that the breath can move downward. Diaphragm can fully expand and contract. And notice anything that's present. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing right. It's just what is in the moment. Allowing, noticing, deepening that, what I could call the awareness muscle, dropping away from the distractions so that this awareness muscle can get stronger. You start to notice the things internally, the chatter, maybe the fear or limiting beliefs of some kind. And once you notice these things, an interesting thing can happen. Just by your acknowledging that they're there, they tend to dissipate. They don't have such a grip on you anymore. So go ahead and take one more nice deep breath and bring your hands to your heart. And as you hold your hands to your heart, maybe holding your intention of why you said yes to coming on the mat this morning. Bringing to your awareness anything you might need. And being open and curious to the class being exactly what you need. Allow the hands to release, softly flutter open the eyes. Welcome in. All right, I'll be taking my glasses on and off because these days I can see better with them on than without. We're going to start on the mat, lying down on our backs, no props for the first somatic movement practice. And then we'll get into the yin style. So when you lie down on your back, if you can, this is going to work the best if you can let your legs go all the way down. Okay? Let your legs go all the way down. And the first thing I want you to do is just pay attention. Bring your awareness. Let me turn this. Bring your awareness to anything that's present while you're lying here on the floor. Because it's different, right? It's different from when you're sitting. You can relax a little bit. I don't care where your hands are, it doesn't matter. And just take a moment here. I want you to pay attention to three things. The first, obviously, is your physical body. How does your physical body feel? And if there's any, I like to call them sticky spaces, I don't want you to worry about them, just notice them. And then the second thing I want you to notice is your breathing. And it's hard to determine discern how your breathing is, because it's your breathing. But just notice things like, does my belly expand? Does it feel easy, or is there some tension in it? Just notice kind of those things. And then the last thing I want you to pay attention to is the quality or state of your mind. Do you feel quiet? Even though you might have thoughts, that's fine. But do you feel quiet in your mind? Mind's always busy. And there's a difference between that hyperactive, busy mind, always on a screen, always reacting to what's going on. And then the other side of the mind where it's aware and awake and working, but it's not getting pulled in a bunch of different directions. All right, so here's your somatic movement. If you start with your toes straight up, like you're pointing them to the ceiling, I want you to inhale and take the toes outward, and you're going to rotate your legs externally. And then as you exhale, I want you to turn your toes inward, internally rotating your legs. And if your feet touch each other, you can take your legs a little wider apart. Inhaling, toes are open, externally rotating outward. Exhaling, toes are inward. And that's simple movement. We're going to add on to that. But this is what I want you to think about. The feet represent the knee direction and the hip rotation. So you're moving the whole leg, not just the foot. So the next time you inhale and you turn your toes open, turn your palms up. And then as you turn your feet inward, turn your palms down. So you're going to rotate on the outer edge of your hand, the pinky side of your hand, just like you're rotating on your heel. Inhaling, you open. Exhaling, you close. Inhaling, palms are up, toes are out. Exhaling, palms are down, toes are in. The last part of this is to start to move the head. So when you take the inhale, I want you to lift your chin up a little bit, moving it away from your throat. And as you exhale, turn your chin down a little bit. Inhaling, toes open, palms up, chin open. Exhaling, toes in, palms down, and chin down. Keep going. And you're working with your breathing. You don't have to make it super hard. The arms and the feet are easy enough. The head starts to feel like, well, how far do I go? Just use your discernment and decide. Do one more round, inhaling and exhaling. And then pause, go back to a neutral supine position and see. Check in with your physical body. Check in with your breathing. And check in with the state of your mind. Go ahead and bend your knees, plant your feet down on the floor, pick your pelvis up just a little bit and reset it, just so that it has a little release there. And you can rock your pelvis up and down a little bit if it feels tension in your lower back. From here, cross your right ankle over your left knee. We're going to pick up that left foot. Remember, you can always put your foot on a block, or I happen to have my bolster here. I could do it that way if you don't like the reaching part. But if you don't get enough sensation, you got to do the reach. Goodness, there's all this fabric. I've been traveling and my body is, even though I've been practicing, it's just not the same, right? Your body, you're sitting so much of the day. So find your hold. Remember that in yin, we're looking for tension on purpose. So either with your foot up on something or holding, shoulders are relaxed, head feels like it's in neutral. You've got some sensation going on in your right hip. And this helps to start to speak to the fascia, the connective tissue of the hip and lower back on the right. So we're in the month of April. It's been a month. It's been a month. We've had the spring equinox. We've had a solar eclipse. We're in Mercury retrograde. It's been a moment. And you might notice that it hasn't always been easy going through these cycles of time, transitions, these energies really do have an effect on us. They truly, truly do. And so you might just, in your own mind, review how the month has been going for you and give yourself a little compassion if there is, if there was moments of challenge. Not everything is easy, as we know. Take a nice deep breath. And then let go of that leg. Stretch your leg up to the ceiling so it's straight. You might want to flex your foot a couple times. Opening up the leg. And then go ahead and put your leg down and we'll just do the other side. Okay, so cross your left foot over your right knee. Use your prop or pick your legs up. Finding your place where you can hold. Giving yourself some tension and sensation now in your left hip. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being pain and 1 being nothing, I want you at maybe about a 6. You could push it to 7, you can drop it back to 5, but I want you to feel something because it's not going to work. The yin practice will feel great, but it won't actually do what you want it to do if there isn't some tension there. So I was at the ashram during the solar eclipse and had a very interesting experience there. We were lucky enough to have contact with Pandaji, who is the spiritual head, the master, if you will, of the Himalayan Institute. And Chris and I happened to run into him, and he remembered us, but didn't remember our names. We hadn't been there for a long time. And so he invited us to come to what they call the Hoven, and he was going to host or present a fire ceremony, a special fire ceremony, especially for the eclipse. And of course, it was such an honor for him to invite us. So we quickly texted everybody. We're trying to get everybody together because everybody was out on the grounds, finding their perfect spot to see the eclipse. And, we were in the Poconos and it was cloudy, so we weren't going to see a lot anyway. But people wanted to be out in the energy, which I totally understand. And I'll finish my story in a minute. So take a nice deep breath and let go of your leg. Stretch it up to the ceiling. And then go ahead and pause, bringing your feet back to neutral. So we're going to move into a twist here, and I want you to use a prop You can use, I'm going to show you on a bolster, but you can use a block. You could even use a couple of blankets. So if I've got my bolster laying next to my mat, and I'm going to put it on my right side, I want to pick my hips up and drop them over to the left side of the mat and drop down my right leg. Lift your left leg up and twist over so that you land on the prop. Now, if the prop isn't high enough, because right away you go, oh, that's too far, I can't really do it, I could turn my bolster up and make it much higher. And that actually feels a lot better in my body right now. You could put 2 blocks. You could put a bolster and a block, bolster and a blanket. Find something to prop yourself up with, and then start to think about this upper body. I want you to pick your right shoulder up and scooch it to the right and let your left shoulder just descend. From there, arms can go open or up in cactus, depending on your body. Please don't struggle, but find the tension. Find the tension. And in this particular position, your tension could be in your armpit chest. That's where a lot of women have it. Or it could be along your left waist, or it could be in your hip and outer leg. So finding that sweet spot, right? That's the juice. That's the work in yin, is finding your sweet spot. And I'll continue my story. So it comes time, we're all sitting around this oven, which is basically a fire pit on steroids in this big covered pavilion. It was open to the elements, but it was covered. And not everybody was there. And it was really, really amazing. I didn't understand hardly any of the mantras. So an hour-long ceremony, half an hour was Pandaji and his wife reciting, I can't even tell you how many mantras, maybe 100. And then every once in a while, they would say a specific phrase and they would throw these elements that he had put together into the fire. And it had things like seeds and dried fruit and some kind of bark and ghee. And the mixture means something. And he put it together specifically for the eclipse and for this transition time. And then the second half of the ceremony, we participated. We got to go up and sit around the fire and listen to the chant. And then when he said these words, we all threw the mixture into the fire. So it's really special. And during the whole process, the eclipse happened. You know, for a while it was sunny and warm. And even though we weren't watching the eclipse, it got darker and colder. And then we're still doing the ceremony, and then it got lighter and warmer again. And so we were out in it, being led by this spiritual master through this really special ceremony. Take a nice deep breath. And I want you to start to unwind yourself, bringing your leg back, bringing your hips back to the center, maybe bending your knees. Give yourself a moment of transition in between. So what do you need? Do you need to bring your knees to your chest? Do you need to lift your pelvis up and put it back down? What do you need? And then when you feel ready, move your prop to the left side of your mat. Hop your hips to the right and let your left leg go down. And pick your right leg up and twist over. Again, our sides are not the same, so you might notice one side needs a lot more support than the other. And then once you set up your legs, pick your left shoulder up just a little bit to kind of snuggle it over to the left side of your mat. I'm talking like maybe 1/4 of an inch. And then you'll notice that the right side of your body can settle more. And take your arms open or up to cactus, whatever you did on the first side. Remember to hold a sense of tension. And so we're in this fire ceremony, we're enjoying this. I don't know what he's saying, I have no idea, but I trust that it was significant for all of us. And then later we had a meet and greet with him. And one of the women that did not participate in the ceremony, she wanted to be out and looking at it. She asked why we didn't do that. Like, why were we undercover having a ceremony instead of out looking at the eclipse? And I found his answer to be really, really interesting. He said, so many people go out into the bigness of an event, like running around the country, seeing the best sight of this eclipse. Now, I guess if you're an astronomer or something like that, it would make sense, right? But everybody was buying the glasses and finding the perfect spot, and they had to see it, they had to look at it. And he believed, and he said this is why he did what he did. It's an internal process. It isn't to go out with a bunch of other people and get wowed by watching what's going on. And there's nothing wrong with that. He wasn't condemning anybody for wanting to do that, but his belief and his teachings was saying that these significant moments in time are about our own self-realization, our own transition, our own process internally. And he was helping us all do that by performing the ceremony at that specific time. And I learned later that that whole idea and process developed that morning, which is pretty significant in itself, that he pulled it off that quickly. So I say that only because these significant times of transition, the spring equinox is a transition time, the eclipse is a transition, even the Mercury retrograde is a transition time. What are we doing? What are we doing? Take a nice deep breath. And then slowly unwinding yourself, bringing your feet back to the floor. Finding your way into a place where you feel comfortable there. You might bring your knees to your chest. You might do a little knee swishy side to side. Whatever your body needs. And then as you feel ready, I want you to roll over to your side and push yourself up away from the floor. Come up to sitting. So easy Sukhasana, easy seated cross. If this isn't available to you, do a different posture, do a different leg position, but if you can do Sukhasana, please do that. And what I'd like you to pay attention to is that your feet are not pulled in like this. Can you see how I'm bringing my feet and my knees have got all the space? I want you to move your feet forward in front of you and slide them in the opposite direction so your knees can sit on your feet. And if that isn't available to you, of course you can use your blocks. Here's another cool idea. If you have a blanket, you could fold it up into kind of a little tube and kind of wrap it around underneath your feet so that your knees are on the blanket. So this is a little bit like fire log pose, only it's not as hard. Your shins make a straight line knee to knee. And if you look down at your structure, it looks like a triangle. You might want to sit up on a blanket if this feels hard. So we're just going to go forward. So I want you to take a nice deep breath, lift your chest up, and then start to move yourself forward over your legs. You can take your hands forward over your body. You can let yourself rest on your legs. What I'm looking for here is what we call the double whammy. You should feel some tension around your outer hips and maybe into your back. And everybody's going to be a little different here. You might be able to fold over your legs really easily, and that's fine. You might only come halfway down like I'm doing, but find a place where you can rest. If you have a prop in front of you, like I could put my bolster here, put my elbows on my bolster, I could hold my head. You just settle in. And so transition times are interesting, yeah? We could call in between each pose a transition time. We could call waking up in the morning from a night's sleep transition time, or going to sleep at night transition time. There's lots of transition times that we experience throughout the day, throughout the course of the week or the seasons. I was using the big examples of April. I actually didn't realize how significant those events were all glommed together like that. And in my world, because I was active and working and traveling so much, I had to really make sure that I was doing my meditation and that I was doing my practices. Because when I wasn't, I was like a whirling dervish. I couldn't settle myself down for nothing. You might have noticed that yourself and didn't realize what was happening. Because again, we're all part of nature, and what's going on in nature is happening within us. We just don't know it. Remember that yin poses can bring up not only physical tension, but emotional tension, mental tension. So check in with yourself. What's present? Noticing your tendencies. Nothing wrong, nothing right, just whatever is. And again, when you bring understanding and awareness to this, and you maybe take a deep breath, it can dissipate because it's just energy moving through the body, and you don't want it stuck in there. That's the thing you don't want. Take a nice deep breath. And then as you inhale, start to come back up. And before we go to the other side, bring your legs up and stretch them out in front of you. Remember what leg you had in front. I always put my right foot in front of my left first. You could rotate your ankles. You could rub your knees. Find something that is neutralizing and soothing. And then when you feel ready, go to Sukhasana on the other side. So it's always going to feel wonky because I didn't call the side, so you did your favorite first. So now you're in your unfavorite side. Try to make that triangle where your legs are straight. Remember the trick with the blanket wrapping around your legs can really help feel like a container. I like the bolster in front of me so I have something to lean on. You can use your hands on the floor. So just take a nice deep breath. And then as you exhale, start to come forward. Finding that place where you can pause. Softening shoulders, softening breath. Finding what I like to call the flow state, where you're aware and you're moving through your life, your day, but you're not in reactivity mode. You're not in a place of reaction from whatever, a phone call, driving in the car, the news, any of it. And as I taught in my in the retreat that we had, it was a really sweet practice that evolved, I'll say that. Each day was focused on a different piece. And you've heard me say some of this before, where you have to create stillness. So the first piece was creating stillness. And then the stillness creates the space. The space gives us opportunity for awareness. So that's where we are right now. We create stillness in the pose. We create space within that stillness for the awareness to start to come up. Rather than going and looking for something, it will kind of bubble up on its own. But then from that awareness, you need to have action. So that's where intention comes in. Oh, I realized something in my awareness, and now I have an intention around that awareness. And then from that intention, I'm going to plant a seed of potential, or there's a seed of possibility. What can be different? And then from there, you can manifest where you want to be. And maybe where you want to be is right here, right now. And that is perfectly fine. Take one more deep breath. And then walking yourself back. If you're using a prop, move it. Stretch your legs out in front of you. Give it a little moment. You can lean back on your hands and just kind of let your legs do what they want to do naturally. Not everybody likes this action, but this is something that a lot of people do. So if that feels good to your body, do it. Nice and easy. Alrighty. Well, we're doing great on time. All right. Next one we're going to do here is butterfly. And before we do butterfly, I want you to do the energy point stimulation. So thumbs on the, it's called kidney 1 point, right under the ball of your foot, right between your first and second toe. There's like a little indentation. I want you to take your thumbs and push into them. And maybe give it a little like circle rotation. If it's tender, that means that your kidney meridian is a little sticky. And if that's sticky, all the other meridian channels are going to be sticky. So if you don't do anything else with energy channels, this is the thing to do. And you could push really hard and then release it, kind of like a pulsing. So the Chinese medicine, people call this acupressure. If you've ever had acupuncture, you've probably had a needle put in this spot. All right, let that all go. And then I want you to find a way that you can be a butterfly. The feet are not close to you. They're out in front of you. You're sitting pretty squarely on your sitting bones. Use a prop if you have it. The block, the bolsters are nice for yin, I think. And then sit up nice and tall, and just like you did before, come forward. Finding a place where you can rest. I like to hook my hands over my bolster because it helps my middle back. You don't have to do that. You can hold your head in your hands. However you decide, and you're going to be here and as quietly as possible. Create the stillness. And as Pandaji so eloquently put it when he was describing why we were doing a ceremony, it was to go inward. It was to help the transition of the eclipse signify and actually help us with our own eclipse, with our own transition. So when we're in these poses, can you go inward? can you soften enough to create the space? So that this bubbling of awareness, this bubbling up of awareness can occur. It occurs all the time, it's just we're usually busy and we don't pay attention to it. And the other thing that can happen when you have these awarenesses is there can be some self-judgment, especially if it's an awareness around something that maybe you did or didn't do that you wished you did or didn't do. And so if that kind of thing comes up for you, the practice is self-love. The practice is releasing and letting go any of those judgments or harsh feelings that you might have about what may or may not have happened. It's all a mirror and a learning for us to grow and expand and live in a higher vibration. You guys know me pretty well to know that I'm always seeking and I'm always learning. And what I'm really interested in right now is these vibrational energies, if you will, that are validated by quantum physics, and how we live our lives will dictate what we see and how we live in the world. So if I want to live my life from self-judgment and anger around something I did or didn't do, that's how I'm going to live in the world. And that's what I'm going to see in the world. But if I can really, truly forgive myself, love myself, have a compassion for myself, then that's what I'm going to see and live in the world. So I'm interested in that right now. Because we are truly more than our physical body. We say that all the time in yoga. We're spiritual beings or energy beings contained in a physical body. Take a nice deep breath. And then as you're ready, start to slowly sit up. And again, move any props away, support your knees to come to center, stretch your legs out. Okay. Our next shape is on the floor on our belly. And I want to show you a couple of things that you could use as support systems if you need it. So if I've been traveling and my sensitive area is my lower back. So if I want to do Sphinx pose, but I'm going to be super cautious, I'm going to put this blanket that I folded up underneath my pelvis so that when I'm up in Sphinx pose, it diminishes my curve in my lower back. So that could be an option for you. Second option is to just come down lower. So instead of your elbows being under your shoulders like they normally are, you could slide them closer in and your body's a little lower. You're still in Sphinx pose, it's just lower. And then the last option you have is to use your bolster Put it underneath your rib cage, not on your stomach. And take your arms over the bolster. So now this is for the person that maybe doesn't like to support themselves on their shoulders. This is a really nice way to do Sphinx pose without a lot of effort. All right, so choose your path. Find stillness. Soften into the shape. You'd be surprised how active your muscles are. When you go, oh yeah, take a deep breath and soften, everything lets go. Feet can be a little wider than neutral. You're breathing into anything that's present with love, joy, and compassion. A reminder around the tension. If the tension gets louder and louder as you wait through the cycle of time, I want you to back off a little bit. In Sphinx pose, that means go lower. And if it's just not going to be for you, put your head on your hands and rest on your belly. And then the reverse is also true. If the sensation or the tension that you initially felt goes away, you need to make it a little bit more challenging. And in this case, it would be going higher. Take a nice deep breath. And then go ahead and just lie yourself all the way down on the floor. So belly down, hands underneath your forehead. Feel free to turn your head if you like. Feel free to move your hips a little if they feel like they need it. Take a couple breaths here. And then go ahead and press yourself up into table. Come away from the floor for a minute. And you can stay still, or your body might naturally go up into cat pose, just because you're gonna go in that opposite position. And as you feel ready and comfortable, I want you to bring your hips back towards your heels, keep your arms out over your head if you can, and let your head drift downward. Now, if you're really far away from the floor, you can take your knees apart. That gives your body more space. You can also put something under or behind your hips. See if you can keep your arms over your head. If it feels too much on your shoulders, put your palms together, elbows resting on the floor, head right between. We're going to just rest here for a moment. Breathing into anything that's present. So I've actually taken it real slow as I came back. I got home Friday night. Saturday was a wash. I couldn't really do much of anything. I was so exhausted. Yesterday felt a little bit more like I was at least able to unpack my suitcases. Today feels a little better, and I'm just noticing that, and I'm allowing myself to have the slow transition back into my day-to-day life here in Santa Fe. And I'm not sure if it was because I was gone for 2.5 weeks on the East Coast and that's why it feels so much harder, or if it's because there was a huge transition of things that happened in April while I was gone, and it just feels, I don't know, it's taken me longer to feel integrated. And now I'm working with this energy of both and. I feel like I'm back in Delaware and I'm here at the same time, both hand. The whole new place for me to be. Trusting that the universe is giving me this opportunity so that I can work a little deeper. I can move towards expansion. Take a nice deep breath here. And then slowly making your way back up. So the last thing I want you to do is I want to prop you up in a little bit of a supported heart opener or chest opener. I'm going to show you a really simple way to do it that I did yesterday that I liked a lot. And then of course we can do it in lots of other ways, but if you are sensitive to back bending, I would highly suggest you use this blanket idea. And you're going to put the edge of the blanket, the folded edge of the blanket, and you see that I put it in this rectangle skinny shape. It's kind of like a bolster shape, only it's smaller. It's not as big. And you could do this exact same thing with the bolster. So if I'm using the blanket, I'm going to put this folded edge at the base of my shoulders, shoulder blades, sorry, not where my bra line is. It's higher than that. And then I want to take the end of my blanket and fold it so it makes a little pillow for my head. So my head's just a little higher, my heart's just a little lower, and my hips are on the ground. So this is one way to do this. And this is the easiest transitional way. If you want to make it higher because you know that your body wants to do that, then do the exact same thing with the bolster if you have one, or make it higher with your blanket, and then take your blanket and make a pillow up there. So I've got the bolster in the exact same place. I've got a little pillow. And then you can decide about your legs. A lot of people like to put knees together, feet apart. That helps to release your inner groins. If you're able to, put your legs down. And then you're going to rest here. So you may or may not have a lot of tension, but I do want it to have some kind of impact in the front and open of your body. So maybe arms are wider apart. So if my arms are down, I don't feel anything. If I move my arms away from that position, well, now I have some tension across my chest. There you go. Or you might go higher. Softening into the shape. And the other thing that can happen in this type of practice, going inward, we live in the human body, right? And we don't get to be this old and not have physical, I'm going to use the word trauma. Maybe you had an injury, maybe you had surgery, maybe you fell off your horse like I did a million times when I was a kid. I don't care what it was, our bodies have gone through some stuff. And there's memory around that, both in our body, in our cells, in our tissues, and in our own mind. And so when you come to a position in Yin where it's this very safe, self-guided practice, You might feel something in your body that's a memory of like, oh, it's an oh shit memory is what I like to call it. It's like, I don't like that feeling. It's a scary feeling. I don't want to hurt myself again. Am I doing it right or wrong? I don't want to hurt. I don't want to get hurt. These kinds of things will come up in an instant. And so if that's happening for you, I want you to listen to it because it might be some important message. And I also want you to breathe into it and know that you're safe and that you can transition at any time. Because sometimes it's just that, it's a memory. It isn't an actual thing. And this is how we can move past being stuck. Take a nice deep breath. Now from here, we're going to move into Shavasana. So if you're really happy in this pose, you can stay there. If not, move the props away and find yourself flat on the floor. You might actually want to put the prop that you had underneath your back under your legs. That would be a nice action today to take. Or lie all the way flat down. Remember to cover yourself up, even if it's only part of the way, like from the pelvis down, your nervous system will relax when you do that. If you have an eye pillow, use it to cover the light. And then when you feel like you're ready and you stop moving, take a nice deep breath, let that signal to your body to become still, to let go, and to rest. Take a longer and deeper breath. As you feel ready, you can start to stretch your fingers and toes, arms and legs, bringing yourself back. Slowly bend your knees, rolling to a side. Pause there for a breath or two before coming up to sitting. Once you're seated, just keep your eyes closed. Pause there for a moment. Holding what I like to call the sacred silence. And then bring your hands to your heart. Just very gently tip your head downward. And gratitude, as always, to spend time with you on the mat. For our deep body wisdom and guiding light. May our light always shine brightly, and may we always see the light in each other. Namaste.